A tiny island attracted the entire world. Its treasure was not silver or gold. Its treasure grew quietly beneath sunlight. Small cloves carried extraordinary hidden power. Their fragrance traveled across distant oceans. Powerful kingdoms desperately wanted those precious spices. Merchants crossed dangerous seas seeking Ternate. Some arrived carrying gifts and promises. Others arrived carrying cannons and ambition. Ternate stood beneath mighty Mount Gamalama. The volcano watched over fertile lands. Clove trees covered the island's slopes. Farmers carefully harvested fragrant flower buds. Every harvest brought wealth beyond imagination. Ternate slowly became a powerful kingdom. Its small territory controlled enormous riches. Foreign merchants filled its crowded harbor. Ships arrived from many distant lands. Traders exchanged spices for valuable goods. Colorful fabrics filled busy coastal markets. Fine ceramics changed hands beside cloves. Metal weapons arrived through maritime trade. Different languages echoed throughout Ternate's streets. The island became connected with continents. Yet wealth always attracts dangerous attention. Every fragrant clove carried hidden consequences. The world began watching Ternate closely. Distant rulers dreamed about controlling everything. They wanted spices without sharing profits. They wanted power over Ternate's people. But Ternate was never merely helpless. Its rulers understood wealth created influence. The Sultan protected important trading routes. Warriors guarded villages and coastal harbors. Traditional fleets sailed across surrounding waters. Ternate expanded its political influence outward. Nearby islands respected its growing strength. Some accepted alliances with powerful Ternate. Others watched with fear and suspicion. Across the sea stood rival Tidore. Tidore also possessed valuable spice lands. Both kingdoms wanted influence over Maluku. Their rivalry shaped generations of history. Peace often hid dangerous political tensions. Royal smiles sometimes concealed secret distrust. Every alliance could suddenly become betrayal. Every trade agreement carried hidden risks. The spice trade brought prosperity everywhere. Yet prosperity slowly sharpened ancient rivalries. Ternate became rich, proud, and powerful. Its people believed their future seemed secure. Mount Gamalama stood peacefully above everything. The sea carried ships toward prosperity. Clove trees continued blooming across hills. Nobody imagined distant empires were approaching. Their sails would soon darken horizons. Their promises would conceal dangerous intentions. Their friendship would demand terrible prices. Ternate's greatest treasure became its danger. The fragrance attracted friends and enemies. Soon, unfamiliar ships appeared beyond Ternate. Their tall sails looked strangely foreign. Cannons waited silently beneath wooden decks. The world had finally discovered Ternate, and Ternate's peaceful age began ending. Foreign ships slowly approached Ternate's peaceful shores. Their towering sails blocked the morning sunlight. Portuguese sailors carried gifts and weapons. They smiled warmly before Ternate's leaders. Their promises sounded generous and peaceful. They offered protection against dangerous rivals. Ternate welcomed these unfamiliar visitors cautiously. The Sultan considered their military strength. Portuguese cannons appeared powerful and impressive. Their ships dominated distant ocean routes. An alliance seemed useful for Ternate, especially against its powerful rival Tidore. The Portuguese promised friendship and support. Ternate offered valuable cloves through trade. Both sides celebrated their new alliance, yet hidden ambitions quietly grew beneath. Portuguese merchants wanted exclusive spice control. They disliked competing with local traders. They wanted Ternate's wealth for themselves. Their friendship slowly became demanding control. Soon, Portuguese soldiers built fortresses. Massive stone walls rose beside Ternate. Cannons watched the busy coastal harbor. The fortress promised protection from enemies. But its walls also watched Ternate. Portuguese officials controlled important spice shipments. Local merchants faced increasing restrictions daily. Prices changed according to foreign demands. Ternate's wealth slowly escaped overseas. The alliance began feeling like imprisonment. Some nobles warned the Sultan privately. Others defended continued Portuguese cooperation strongly. Arguments divided Ternate's royal court deeply. Trust disappeared between old political allies. The Sultan watched these tensions carefully. He understood foreign power was growing, yet removing them seemed extremely dangerous. Portuguese soldiers controlled strategic coastal positions. Their cannons threatened nearby villages silently. Resistance could begin another devastating war. Cooperation could destroy Ternate's independence. Every decision carried terrible consequences ahead. Then Sultan Khairun rose against control. He demanded respect for Ternate's sovereignty. Portuguese leaders answered with careful promises. Their words sounded peaceful but empty. Secret plans continued behind fortress walls. Khairun realized friendship had become deception. He challenged Portuguese authority more openly. Tensions spread throughout Ternate's communities. Warriors prepared weapons beneath moonlight. Merchants feared losing their remaining freedom. Families whispered about approaching conflict nightly. The fortress became Ternate's darkest symbol. Then Portuguese leaders requested a meeting. They promised peace and renewed cooperation. Sultan Khairun accepted their invitation cautiously. He entered the fortress without fear. Heavy wooden doors closed behind him. Silent guards watched every movement closely. Something terrible waited inside those walls. Peace had become a dangerous trap. A trusted invitation concealed brutal betrayal. Ternate's future suddenly stood before darkness, and the Sultan never returned alive. The fortress remained silent after Khairun disappeared. Outside, his loyal guards waited anxiously. Minutes passed without any royal response. Then terrible rumors spread through Ternate. Sultan Khairun had been brutally murdered. The promised meeting had become betrayal. Portuguese leaders denied their hidden crime. But grief quickly became powerful anger. Ternate's people gathered beneath Gamalama. Families mourned their fallen beloved sultan. Warriors raised weapons toward the fortress. Mothers cried beside frightened young children. Merchants closed their busy coastal shops. The entire island demanded justice immediately. Portuguese soldiers strengthened their defensive walls. They feared Ternate's growing anger deeply. The fortress became surrounded by hatred. Yet grief needed a fearless leader. Then Sultan Baabullah stepped forward proudly. He carried sorrow inside his heart. His father's death changed everything forever. Baabullah refused to accept Portuguese rule. He promised to reclaim Ternate's freedom. His words awakened hope across islands. Warriors gathered beneath Ternate's banners. Villages sent fighters toward the coast. Traditional warships filled surrounding waters. Nearby kingdoms answered Baabullah's urgent call. Old rivals temporarily joined Ternate's struggle. The islands united against foreign control. Baabullah became more than Ternate's sultan. He became Maluku's symbol of resistance. Portuguese commanders underestimated his determination greatly. They trusted their cannons and fortress. But Ternate understood every surrounding coastline. Local sailors knew hidden ocean routes. Warriors moved quickly through dense forests. Villagers secretly delivered food and weapons. Portuguese supply routes became increasingly dangerous. The fortress slowly lost outside support. Baabullah avoided reckless direct attacks. Instead, he planned a patient siege. Ships blocked important routes toward Ternate. Warriors controlled villages beyond fortress walls. Portuguese soldiers began fearing starvation inside. Every passing month weakened their confidence. Yet Baabullah carried another painful burden. Revenge burned fiercely inside his heart. He remembered his father's final journey. He imagined the fortress doors closing. Anger demanded immediate and brutal punishment, but leadership required patience and discipline. Baabullah chose freedom over blind vengeance. He united people instead of dividing. His struggle became larger than revenge. Ternate fought for its future now. The siege continued through changing seasons. Rain covered battlefields and forest paths. Sunlight returned over determined island warriors. Portuguese flags still flew above stone, but their power weakened every day. Ternate's resistance continued growing stronger. The fortress slowly became their prison. Baabullah watched patiently from distant hills. Soon, foreign rule would finally collapse. Years passed beneath Ternate's changing skies. The Portuguese fortress remained tightly surrounded. No supply ships entered its harbor. Food slowly disappeared from storage rooms. Fresh water became increasingly difficult inside. Portuguese soldiers watched empty roads nervously. Every distant sound suggested another attack. Yet Baabullah refused unnecessary bloodshed. He understood patience could defeat cannons. His warriors controlled forests and coastlines. Traditional fleets guarded surrounding ocean routes. Hidden scouts watched every Portuguese movement. The fortress slowly became completely isolated. Its mighty walls offered little comfort. Cannons could not create food. Stone defenses could not restore hope. Inside, fear replaced confidence and pride. Soldiers argued over shrinking supplies daily. Some questioned their commanders' decisions openly. Others dreamed about escaping during darkness. Outside, Ternate remained united and determined. Villages supported Baabullah's patient strategy. Farmers delivered food to loyal warriors. Sailors protected every important coastal passage. Families shared stories about Sultan Khairun. His murder strengthened their resistance further. Baabullah remembered his father's final betrayal, but revenge no longer controlled him. Freedom had become his greater purpose. He wanted Ternate governing itself again. He wanted foreign control completely removed. His leadership inspired distant island communities. More rulers offered alliances and support. Ternate's influence expanded beyond its shores. Baabullah became respected throughout eastern Indonesia. His enemies began fearing his influence. Portuguese commanders requested negotiations several times. Baabullah listened without abandoning his demands. He wanted justice and complete independence. The Portuguese could offer neither honestly. Their remaining power continued disappearing slowly. Then their final defenses started weakening. Exhausted soldiers struggled beside damaged walls. Empty cannons faced Ternate's determined forces. The fortress no longer controlled Ternate. Ternate now controlled everything surrounding it. Portuguese leaders finally understood their defeat. Their promised empire had become imprisonment. They had arrived seeking valuable cloves. Now they desperately sought safe escape. In 1575, surrender became unavoidable. Portuguese survivors prepared ships for departure. Their flags disappeared from Ternate's coastline. Crowds watched foreign soldiers leave silently. Some celebrated with tears and laughter. Others remembered those lost during struggle. Baabullah stood above the crowded harbor. Victory brought pride but also sorrow. His father never witnessed Ternate's freedom. The Sultan looked toward distant waters. Portuguese ships slowly vanished beyond horizons. Mount Gamalama watched the historic victory. Clove trees moved beneath gentle winds. Ternate had defeated a powerful empire. But the world still wanted spices. Ternate celebrated freedom beneath clear skies. Portuguese ships disappeared beyond distant horizons. Sultan Baabullah returned through cheering crowds. Warriors raised banners beside Mount Gamalama. Families embraced after years of struggle. The island finally breathed freely again. Yet victory never ended history completely. Ternate's fragrant cloves remained extremely valuable. Foreign merchants still desired enormous profits. New ships continued crossing dangerous oceans. Some arrived carrying peaceful trade offers. Others secretly carried ambitious colonial dreams. Baabullah understood wealth attracted powerful enemies. Therefore, he strengthened Ternate's regional alliances. His influence reached many surrounding islands. Ternate became a respected maritime power. Regional rulers recognized Baabullah's growing authority. Trade routes connected distant island communities. Cloves continued enriching Ternate's busy markets. Merchants exchanged spices for foreign goods. The kingdom experienced another golden age. Yet prosperity always carried hidden shadows. Every valuable harvest attracted unfamiliar ambitions. Every successful voyage created dangerous competition. Beyond Maluku, European powers watched closely. They studied Ternate's strategic maritime position. They dreamed about controlling spice production. They wanted profits without local competition. Soon, Dutch ships entered eastern waters. Their merchants arrived with careful promises. They offered alliances, protection, and trade. Their words sounded strangely familiar again. Ternate remembered Portuguese broken promises clearly. But history sometimes repeats through necessity. Political rivalries complicated every difficult decision. Ternate needed allies against powerful enemies. Foreign powers understood those dangerous divisions. They used rivalries to gain influence. Slowly, trade became another political weapon. Agreements began limiting local freedom again. The Spice Islands faced unfamiliar pressures. Ternate's greatest treasure remained its weakness. Cloves brought wealth, power, and danger. Their fragrance traveled across distant continents. But distant empires followed that fragrance. They crossed oceans seeking complete control. Ternate had defeated Portuguese occupation once. Yet colonial ambition never truly disappeared. New rulers arrived beneath different flags. Their methods changed, but goals remained. Ternate's history became larger than victory. It became a warning about wealth. Rich lands often attract powerful strangers. Valuable resources can invite dangerous friendships. But Ternate refused becoming forgotten history. Its people defended dignity through generations. Baabullah became remembered as heroic leadership. His resistance inspired distant island communities. The fortress remained a symbol afterward. Its walls remembered betrayal and freedom. Mount Gamalama still watches Ternate silently. Clove trees still bloom across hills. Their fragrance carries centuries of memory. Ternate's treasure changed the entire world, but that treasure also changed Ternate.